UConn survives a late second half surge by BYU led by AJ Dybantsa, and the Huskies hold on to win last night 86-84 in what was a very good game. And for a stretch, I would say about 8-10 minutes into the first half, UConn expanded the lead out to double digits, and they kind of kept BYU there until about the 12-minute mark of the second half, when there was a long TV timeout, then there was a review, and UConn seemed to lose momentum in the game, and BYU picked up that lack of momentum, and they went on a run, and it was certainly led by AJ Dybantsa, who hadn't had his best night up until that point, but finished really strong. 25 points for Dybantsa in this game, and he did so while being really aggressive, especially late in the second half, looking to get his own shot. He hit a really nice three-pointer late, some really tough mid-range twos, was able to get himself to the free throw line almost at will. 10 free throw attempts in that game for Dybantsa. But ultimately, UConn won the game, led by their trio of Silas Demery Jr., Terrace Reed, and the mainstay Alex Caravan, who he's been there forever at this point. All three had 21 points in this game. Now, both teams, it wasn't a complete picture for both teams. For BYU, no Kennard Davis, who's one of their 5 starters, and I expect him to be back at some point. Although with BYU and his off court incident, I'm not sure exactly when we should expect to see him back. Didn't look for the press conference after the game from Coach Kevin Young, so maybe he was asked about that and somebody has an answer. Drop it in the comments below. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. We are close to 2,000 subscribers here, trying to get over that big mark. And they also lost Kebakeda about 8 minutes into the game, which is a big loss. One of their better players for sure. Hopefully he's going to have a quick recovery. He's a much needed player for BYU. They had some good scoring performances from their guards, Richie Saunders, Robert Wright. Dawson Baker hit some really clutch threes, especially at the end of the game. But the thing that I kind of took away the most from BYU was last year I felt like their offense was a lot more cohesive. This year it seems to be more ISO oriented. There are moments where there's called plays and they're able to generate threes for Saunders or Baker, but it seems like Wright or Dybantsa is kind of taking their guy, and then what can they create out of it? And as a result, against a really good UConn team, they had a negative assisted turnover ratio, 1-2, 7 assists to 14 turnovers. So that is going to be something I'm monitoring with this BYU team. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't turn that around. By conference play, they could be much better in that department. It's really early, so I fully expect that they'll get better at that. It's just something I'm noticing early on in the season. And with Dybantsa, as somebody who's going to be covering these prospects via looking at the draft, tremendous scorer, one of the 2 best scorers in this year's class. I don't think there's much question about that. For me, it's about what else can he do? Like in the first 30 minutes of this game, he wasn't scoring the ball very effectively. What else can he do for the team? He had some rebounds, he had a couple steals, but he was kind of part of the problem with the assist to turnover ratio there. No assists to 3 turnovers. And on the season, 2 assists to 2 turnovers, pretty much 1.8, so slightly positive assist to turnover ratio. It's something I want to see him improve because he has all of the skills to get better in that aspect. There are other games I've watched, like the Villanova game, where he did have a couple of assists in that one and could have had more if his teammates finished some more of his passes. But with all the attention he draws, he should be getting at least a couple more assists per game. And that's something I want to see him grow at as the season goes on. But boy, as a scorer, he is awesome. His physicality, his ability to drive to the basket, create separation for his mid-range shot is just special. And he's got the size, length, athleticism that will translate to the NBA. Now, for UConn, it's interesting. Like, I really think not having Braylon Mullins, I think he's going to take them to another gear. Because we saw at the end of the game, they they started turning the ball over more. They didn't handle the press from BYU very well. And I wonder if having an outlet like Mullins will help them in those situations. Now, they have a lot of foul trouble. Solo Ball was out at that point in the game with 4 fouls. Stewart also had 4 fouls. He made a couple of passing mistakes at the end of the game. I really like the minutes they got from Jaden Ross. I've really liked his play this season coming off the bench. And then you've got Caravan, Reed, Silas Demery Jr. I just want to spend a couple minutes talking about Caravan because from the draft perspective, 2 years ago, after they won the second of their back-to-back national championships, I felt like he could have been a late first-round pick. Last year, he didn't necessarily take a step back, but he didn't take a step forward either. And part of it was the circumstances around him, where the team they didn't have great guard play last season, and I think it affected his shooting percentages. This year, it's early, but he is certainly on an upward trajectory there. And I still believe, I think he'll be a second round pick, but I still believe he's a guy who can play 8 years in the NBA as a guy who's got great feel for the game, a good shooter, a passable defender in terms of on ball, and then a good team defender in terms of his off ball defense, and a guy who can just be a connector offensively when he's not, shooting the ball. So I like his game. I think he's an NBA player, and I'm curious about, Reed, Demery Jr., Mullins when he gets back. Will UConn, Solo Ball have other guys that join him in the NBA? We'll have to see as the season goes on how I evaluate them because it's I'll say it again, it's very early. So I don't think anybody should have definitive opinions on any player because it's a really small sample size. We got to see how they do as the season goes on. You get a full picture of their game. Lots of guys can look good over a handful of games, and then you watch over the course of the full season, scouting reports, etc., and those players, don't perform as well over the longevity of the season. So an important early season win for the Huskies. Clearly some things for BYU to build on, but I thought equally important that they fought back in this game down 2 starters. So I think both teams can you have a little bit of a moral victory for BYU and for UConn, even though they won the game, certainly a lot to build or to work on with them finishing with even more turnovers than BYU had. So they've got some things to clean up as well. And then defensively, mostly the turnovers hurt them defensively, I thought. So they've got some things to work on. Both teams, though, I think will definitely improve as the season goes on, as most teams do. And I think UConn probably has the higher ceiling just because of I think they're a deeper team. But like I said, we'll have to see how the season develops. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video. Really appreciate all the support. Until next time, guys. Peace.